Michael Meacher to move.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I want to thank very warmly the Backbench Business Committee for enabling me and cross-party colleagues from across the House to introduce this debate on the Atos healthcare work capability assessment. There is enormous concern about this issue, both in the country as well as in this House, as witnessed by, on a Thursday, the fact that there are, I think, over 30 members who wish to speak on this issue. Now, to try and ensure that they can all do so, I propose to speak for no more than 10 to 15 minutes, and I hope colleagues will accept that for reasons of pressure on time, I don't propose to take interventions. Now, as knowledge of the debate spread, I have been sent nearly 300 case histories. Many of them make heart-rending reading, and I cannot begin to do justice to the feelings of distress, indignation, fear, helplessness, and indeed widespread anger at the way they've been treated. Nor can I easily contain my own feelings at the slowness, the rigidity and the insensitivity with which Atos and DWP have responded, or rather very often not responded, to these cries of pain which they have heard repeatedly. Now, I have time only to cite very briefly three examples which I think show how extreme is the dysfunction, malfunctioning of Atos assessments. One, a constituent of mine, was epileptic almost from birth, subject to grand mal seizures. At the age of 24, he was called in by Atos, classified as fit for work, and had his benefit cut by £70 a week. He appealed, but became agitated and depressed, lost weight, fearing that he couldn't pay his rent or buy food. 3 months later, he had a major seizure which killed him. A month after he died, DWP rang his parents to say they'd made a mistake and his benefit was being restored. A second example, also from the Oldham area, concerns a middle-aged woman registered blind in an advanced stage of retinitis pigmentosa. She was assessed at 9 points, well short of the 15 needed, and her incapacity benefit was withdrawn. On review by a tribunal, the Atos rating of 9 points was increased to 24. A third case, and I could have chosen from hundreds of others, also from the Northwest, is an insulin-dependent diabetic with squamous cell cancer, Hughes syndrome involving a failed immune system, peripheral neuropathy with no feeling in his feet or legs, heart failure, depression and anxiety. Despite his life-threatening condition, he was placed in the work-related activity group. I think these and a myriad of other examples illustrate incontrovertibly that the current Atos WCA system is drastically flawed, and for several reasons. First, Atos is an IT firm and uses a so-called logic-integrated medical assessment, often described as rigid and tick box, because computer-based systems make it very difficult for health professionals to exercise their professional judgment. And because such a mechanistic system has little or no regard for the complexity of the needs of severely disabled or sick persons, the BMA and others have condemned the current WCA as not fit for purpose. So despite the Honourable Lady being my colleague in Oldham, I really must strictly keep to what I said, but I very much hope she will be called herself. Second, assessed persons regularly felt that the opinion of their own doctor or other specialist medical personnel who were already treating them was either ignored or simply overridden. And that is the more serious when Atos practices simply do not adhere to the guidance for doctors set down by the General Medical Council. Third, because of the failure of so many initial assessments, the appeal procedure is grossly overloaded and hugely expensive. At no less than 41%, I think, of decisions are appealed, of which 38% are won. At £60 million in a single year, the appeals have cost the taxpayer more than half of the £110 million cost spent on the original assessments. Moreover, the NAO has castigated the department for failing to penalise Atos for what they politely call their underperformance and for not setting sufficiently challenging targets. Fourth, there are concerns about the responsibility for work capability assessments, and particularly the responsibility of the Atos Chief Medical Officer. He is Professor Michael O'Donnell, who joined Atos from the American company Unum, formerly Unum Provident, which had a very poor reputation indeed in the US, where it was described as an outlaw company by the US authorities, partly because it was regarded as a disability denial factory. In this situation, the responsibility of the Minister and of the Secretary of State need to be clearly established. Now, against that background, I think it is frankly not good enough for the Minister to respond to this debate by saying that there have been 3 Harrington reviews and that the department is doing the best it can to improve procedures. The real fundamental issue is this: how can it be justified to pursue with such insensitive rigour 1.6 million claimants on incapacity benefit at a rate of 11,000 assessments every week, when it has led, according to the government's own figures, to 1,300 persons dying after being put into the work-related activity group, 2,200 people dying before their assessment was completed, and 7,100 people dying after being put into the support group. Is it reasonable to pressurise seriously disabled persons into work so ruthlessly when there are already 2.5 million people unemployed and on average 8 persons chasing every vacancy, unless they are also provided with the active and extensive support they obviously need in order to get and to hold down work, which is certainly not the case at present. And I therefore want to conclude by asking the Minister 5 specific questions to which I want a specific answer before the end of this debate. First, Harrington has produced some minor adjustments implemented at a glacial pace. Yes, that is true. But the underlying system remains largely undisturbed. The BMA and the National Audit Office have therefore called for a thorough, rigorous and transparently independent assessment of the suitability of the work capability assessment. Will the Minister now implement this? Second, will he accept that the present criteria and descriptors do not sufficiently, or indeed even at all, take into account fluctuating conditions, especially episodic mental health problems? And how is he going to rectify this? Third, will he provide full and transparent details of the Atos contract, not hidden by the specious claims of commercial confidentiality, when Atos is the sole provider of what is clearly a public service? Or better still, since Atos has failed so dramatically, why doesn't he insource this work back into the NHS? Fourth, how is the Minister going to ensure that the medical expertise of disabled persons, doctors and related professionals is fully taken into account before assessments are completed. And lastly, I do want to say this. I want to provide a full dossier to the Secretary of State so that he fully understands what is being done today in his name. And to bring a small delegation to see him from some of the excellent organisations of disabled people who have heroically battled to highlight and to tackle the distress and pain caused by Atos. Can I please be assured that the Secretary of State will see such a delegation? I repeat, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I am sincerely grateful for this debate and for the cooperation of colleagues from across all parties and for the very detailed response which I have received from so many hundreds of victims of Atos. But I do assure the Minister this. This debate is very important, but it is certainly not going to be the end of this matter. Yeah.